Thanks, Ray. We do have Johnny with us, and today we have an exciting webinar for you. As time's gone along, it's more and more evident that FlexApp is a perfect solution for Citrix virtual apps and desktops, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, about how this technology is better than anything else you may have available at your fingertips to dynamically deliver applications into that. Johnny, thanks for joining me. Johnny's a CTA. He's also over one of the CUGC groups.
Yeah, been a Citrix CTA for now tailing 4 years, and then also run Colorado CUGC. So, and prior to that, done a lot of consulting in the virtualization world, where deployed most definitely a lot of Citrix environments.
Great, and you're regional. You're cross-regional in some ways with Liquidware, right? Which regions do you touch usually?
I cover the Mountain States territory, which is the Four Corners in Oklahoma, and then I cover the Ohio Valley, which is Ohio and Indiana, Michigan, Kentucky, and yeah, one of those states pop up in there that I usually miss.
and all the solutions that we'll be speaking about today, all these that you see on your screen here, they're all Citrix ready, verified. And Johnny is the last person to do that with us. We do it every couple of years or so. And Johnny's lab and everything we ran through that with the people over at Citrix Ready, and we re-verified those lately. So he also works on the Alliances team from time to time to help us on projects like that. And he's one of our resident Citrix experts as being a CTA. So a little bit about Liquidware before we get into the application portability side of things with FlexApp is that our solutions go across and touch more parts of the digital employee experience than anyone else out there. You hear about some of the ones that monitor decks. You hear about some of those that claim to control decks. Well, as you see here with our suite, we not only monitor your digital employee experience with Stratosphere UX, knowing what that is and being able to assign a good, fair, or poor user experience rating with it. We've done that since 2009. But actually, we start to control decks there with a feature known as Stratosphere Optimizer, where we optimize the user experience through RAM and CPU tuning to whatever the user has in the forefront. They get a much more robust experience out of that. So Stratosphere, I like to say, knows the user experience more left to right in a type of a windshield and more up and down, so you have more windshield and visibility to that than any other solution in the market for the end user metrics, built for end user computing first. And it also helps you assess and it helps you validate proof of concepts. Likewise, our new real-time remediation solution also then kicks into really controlling decks. Command control is the solution there. It is a real-time remediation solution. It's SaaS first. There's no hidden cost. Now, you may think, well, maybe it competes with this or that. Think about the hidden cost of any of those stacks of those that claim to do real-time remediation and control. They may say they're SaaS and then tell you that you need SQL clusters and that you need a lot of things that are hidden costs to scale those and to do those enterprise-wide. It's SaaS first. It is literally all in the cloud. Just agents that are on the endpoints that help you go in there and control user experience, control the decks on those endpoints, being able to kill processes, as people may call the help desk and say, hey, things are running a little slow. It has a DVR in it, so you can go back in time. Say they call the help desk and you get back to them a little bit later in the day. You can go back to an earlier point during that day or in the last 7 days to take a look at what was exactly happening during that time that they said that they had the issue. It also has protocol mirroring, so you can do side-by-side protocol mirroring and side-by-side metrics from 2 different types of desktops. And it also has that ability to switch between desktops. So if you're we're talking about Citrix mostly today, so I'll use that as an example. Someone calls the help desk and says, my Citrix desktop's a little slow. Well, you can actually go in there and you can see, is it the Citrix desktop or is it the thin client or repurposed PC that has the Citrix agent on it that is attaching to that? So you can actually switch immediately between the two without browsing to a machine name or looking at anything. They're all in one view. And then, like I said, you can do that protocol mirroring in there too. So some really neat things that you've never seen in any other solution like that. And there's already AI built into it. Other solutions out there are talking about their AI strategy. They haven't even touched AI. We have AI built in there. One of the first things that you can see is if a service is running, you can hover over it and see what ChatGPT is feeding in to tell you what that service does. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, what we're going to do in there, in that area. But it is very cutting edge in all those areas. If you want a 5-user free of that, you can go to our website and you can register for that, and you can use that for to help support your friends and family, mother-in-law, whatever you want to do, or father-in-law. And you can get a free license of command control. I would, make a note of that, if you will, and go out there and get that free license, because it is a great value to be able to do that, and it can scale to support your enterprise as well. So now we talk about managing DEX. We talk about managing DEX with our user environment management solution known as Profile Unity. It's the user experience in a nutshell. You don't get more user experience than the profile itself. Now, don't think about this as an either or for FSLogic's profiles for Microsoft. You could use them together and get full user environment management, and it can add great attributes if you're using a different profile solution like FSLogic's to be able to back up and restore that at a moment's notice. Not if the profile becomes corrupt, but when it becomes corrupt. Profile Unity will have a hive of that can restore in seconds as soon as you reset that FSLogic's profile. Likewise, if you use our technology and you use our portability, profiles don't corrupt, because we're not subject to the same corruption level in there. And we have our own profile disk in there, and it does far more than profiles, full user environment management to be able to map drives, printers, migrate user authored data off that endpoint so you can light up a user in the cloud, and the profile goes cross OS. That doesn't happen with FSLogic's profiles. The same profile that you have today, and even if you still run in Windows 7, it could go into Windows 11 and any server version in between. You end up with one smart profile, not bloated, because we don't make those things portable, only the things that matter, and that follows users from desktop to desktop. And then delivering DEX. We deliver an excellent DEX experience with our application portability known as FlexApp, attaching any type of Windows application to an end user computing desktop or a multi-session experience like Citrix, RDSH, and then a multi-user Windows, attaching the application and keeping it separate from the base image. And we'll talk about more about that today. So that's what we're going to go into is FlexApp there, going beyond your digital employee experience with that full suite of solutions in there, known as our Liquidware Essentials and Essentials Plus when you add in command control into that. So what problem are we trying to solve? I won't say trying. What problem do we solve daily with FlexApp with enterprises? It is minimizing your base image management. The FlexApp is a different methodology if you're familiar with Citrix app layering and if you're familiar with other approaches. The methodology is this: get your base image set with your OS in it, and only the apps that you really need for all users. Maybe that's Microsoft Office, and we can make that portable too, but why not put it in the base image? So a lot of our customers will do exactly that. They'll get their base image set, and we've gotten some of our customers down to a single base image, and then they put in apps used by all users in that base image. Like I said, Office would be a good candidate for that, and anything that everybody needs would go into that desktop. And then dynamically deliver and attach any type of application, any type of Windows application to a specific user or group of users, and you can do it on demand. We innovated the on-demand model for delivering applications to end users. You can do it in RDSH, Citrix Server, like I said, Citrix multi-session, Windows multi-session as well. And when you do that, you compare these two approaches. The traditional virtualization model at the top, where you have VM images and you have image sprawl. So if we've got a minimum of 6 images at the top. Maybe you had 6 departments that you're delivering those into, and you have to constantly update every single image. not only with the base image stuff of the OS patches and the apps that everyone needs, but every time you update an application, you have to crack open that image and you have to modify it. So this is a very small model for an enterprise. 6 base images would be a dream for many, but it illustrates the point that down below, you end up with a single base image. So you have all your FlexApp, this is the after shot when you're using FlexApp, you have your FlexApp containers, usually VHDX, the Microsoft format is the most flexible, although we can do VMDKs. There's nuances in there and needless complexities to do VMDKs. So most of our customers do VHDXs. And these individual applications can be attached to the user experience when it's delivered to the endpoint, whether or not it's a desktop or the server OS. And here's where we're drastically different than Citrix app layering. Okay, some of our customers may use Citrix app layering to help manage their base image and their OS. We don't do that, right? We focus on applications themselves. If you like the promise of Citrix app layering and elastic applications that would be packaged once and used across any type of desktop, that's exactly what we've done from day one with FlexApp. It's application containers that are dynamic. You package them one time. They don't break with the OS updates. And then they can be used with any version of Windows from Windows 7 forward. You don't have to repackage them. Only when you update an application may you want to open it up and change it or start over and package it. Packaging, we'll get to that in a moment. It sounds complicated. It is not with FlexApp. It is very simple. It's the same as installing an application. For the average applications, the same as installing the application once. We capture it, we put it on a VHDX, it's immediately able to be assigned. It is not a laborious process for when you're doing several applications, and you're able to package them once, and then they remain elastic across the lot. As you see here below, we're implying that we got to a single base image, and we have done that. Usually you end up with a few base images in an enterprise, but in this case, we have a single base image, and then your Flex apps are assigned to those users or the groups of users. Now, you may have some instances where you do need some application full isolation, and we've still got solutions out there in the market that can do that with AppV and the emergent MSIX, and I'll make some comparisons to those in a moment. So you may have other ways of delivering your application in the mix, but on average, either nearly 100% of your own applications will be able to do this way, or somewhere between 90 to 100% of your organization's applications can be done this way. So what's the different, what happens here when we are bringing in an attached application here? You know, you'll see us use layering less and less because we don't actually layer an application. I use on this slide, but we're attaching applications when we talk about FlexApp. We're not layering it in with the OS and tying it to the OS. We're going to start using that phrase less and less because this is not traditional layering like you have in Citrix app layering. This is attaching an application. So what's the difference in the way that we use this? If you look at this slide, you have traditional software installation on the left, where when you install an application, it actually modifies it. We like to say tattoos the OS and the registry system when it puts files all over, and that's illustrated there. You got files that go in these places and sometimes more to make that application work. And that's the way Windows applications have historically worked, right? MSIX is a little different than that now, and we can also containerize MSIXs, but they traditionally and still do, the majority of them go all over the OS and all over the registry. And then when you uninstall them, you assume that they've been deleted from that. But if you've ever looked around, you'll see files that are left over. It's not a no child left behind. Children are left behind when you uninstall them, and this is, and services too. This is what causes Windows image rot over time and slows things down. If you could start to look at processes after a couple of years of an image, you'd see that there are rogue processes running from applications that have been long uninstalled that did not uninstall cleanly. There's going to be registry keys all over the system. And that's just the way that traditional software installation in Windows has always worked. A few things are left behind, and a few things are left behind arguably in case you reinstall the application later so it can grab those. We don't mess with app data, and that's separate and aside. You don't see that in this discussion here because app data stays where it is. Those are the usability side of things, and where user data may even be stored in there. I'm talking about where the application itself is installing things into the OS. Drastically different when you look over at the right-hand side. A FlexApp and a FlexApp 1 formatted application, they do not tattoo the OS. They're literally untouched. They're untouched in the registry area and all those same files. They never put files in those areas. Like I said, app data is separate from this. This is where the user data is, and that's the part picked up by the profile. We make that portable separately. I'm talking about the application here. We don't tattoo the OS. So we literally, well, when you go looking, you'll see this in the demo today. When you go looking, it looks like the files are there, and it looks like hundreds or thousands of files are there. But when you turn off the FlexApp or deactivate it like a light switch, they're gone because they were never actually there. We have a driver that is proprietary that makes all the files look like they're there, and that's where you get such a high compatibility rating for the number of apps that this approach works with, because this driver makes the OS think it's there. It also makes other applications think that that application is there so they can interact with it. So if you put a plug-in into a browser or even into Outlook or something like that, it's going to work, because to the system and to the other application, it looks like every single file and every single registry key is in there, when they're actually not. They're not. They haven't tattooed the OS. So if the app is on and the app is running, it can interact with the other apps, and that also helps with timing. So you don't have to do this approach where other vendors have tried this and they've said, okay, let's package all these apps together because these apps work together. You don't even have to worry about that with FlexApp. Package them at different times. One was packaged 2 years ago. It's going to work with the one today because it looks like it's natively installed. So you can keep them separate and highly dynamic. So shifting gears a little bit, why FlexApp when you compare it to other things? I talked about this a little bit. Citrix app layering is great for OS layers. It's not necessarily great with individual apps. There are some that it can do elastic with, but there's even limitations in there, especially when you start to switch between multiple OS approaches. You may have access to Citrix app layering, and like I said, we've had customers that have used it to help manage their base image and to do patches and updates that way, but then they rely on FlexApp for highly dynamic apps to get to that goal of a single base image management approach. MSIX and MSIX app attach are emerging, right? But the foremost expert in the world on MSIX, same guy that did AppV, Tim Mangan, he will tell you that 30 to 40% of apps can be done this way. Now, if you use him and you use some of his services, you may be able to, in his toolkit, you may be able to get it higher than that. But then there's still big differences in the usability of MSIX apps, right? There's not the contextual right-click menu everywhere you expect it to be, and it's not as great of a user experience as the way that this long-standing traditional Windows apps have been. Now, we can containerize an MSIX too, where it doesn't even tattoo the OS by putting the files it needs in a directory even. We can make it into a FlexApp. So we're not against MSIX in any way. It also can provide use cases for isolation, right? Where you need fully isolated apps the way that AppV does. There's some use cases that it can touch in there for that. Well, for FlexApp, the innovations that have led the market make it compatible with maybe even 100% of your individual applications. And somewhere in the 90 to 100% of your individual applications is where you will find that it's compatible with. Those remaining apps, you can put them in the base image, or you can deliver them with maybe AppV or MSIX when you do that. And there's fewer and fewer applications that need full isolation these days, so you have that in your advantage too. Speaking about innovations and first to market, now FlexApp's been around since I think it's 2012 when we first shipped or made it available. And I want to brag on us a little bit because you hear VMware and others say they're the first to do this and that. I'm going to set us straight on this. We're the first to do apps on demand, and we've done it since 2017, I believe the year is, where the application is not actually attached to the machine. It is a shortcut on the desktop or under your Windows directory that it's not actually attached until the user first clicks on it. And we can do this with RDSH as well. So we have long did that. We've done it for many years prior to AppVolumes doing it. I'll just flat out say we've innovated that area and we're the first to do it. And if you're a Citrix customer, this should make it preferable to look towards FlexApp, because we've innovated in here. We've been Citrix ready for since our existence has started. Applications anywhere. The ability to really run an application anywhere, it started with us, and let me tell you how we still have a very superior approach in that. All VDI and DAS, any way you deliver Windows, FlexApp is compatible with, even offline. That is as anywhere as it gets. There's no one else out there that can deliver an application without a heavy agent and to do that offline. So we innovated in that area, and we've got an innovation coming within the week. Now we do that with FlexApp 1, a container that can go anywhere. Within the next week, we plan to deliver that same functionality for traditional FlexApps as well. So if you're running a traditional FlexApp format, you can take that offline as well. We already did it and have long done it with FlexApp 1 for the last couple of years. Dynamic apps, we've always focused just on the app, not on the OS, and that gives us the advantage that you want to update or you want to change an app. It is very dynamic, always elastic. App attachment, apps are always attached. They're not actually layered into the OS, and therefore they're dynamic, can go cross OS from Windows 7 and forward. No need to repackage them. It doesn't break when you upgrade your system, and that's different than Citrix app layering, for example. Fully automated app packaging. I've got a couple of slides on that in a moment. There's at least one other vendor out there that claims they have automation. It's not. It's that we have end-to-end. We point our automated packaging architecture to a list of installers. I like to say go home on a Friday and come back on a Monday, and they're ready for you to open and test or to put into proof of concept. That's fully automated, and it's great for organizations that have dozens, if not hundreds, and we've got a few customers that have thousands of applications that can go through this process. And just because we can't automate the packaging of it doesn't mean, if it didn't, we'll have a checklist on that Monday where you get back. You can come back and you can try to manually package that, and it'll usually pick up from there. Fast packaging, it's about the same amount of time to package an app as you install it one time. So let's look at just the simplest of apps in the world, Notepad++. We can package it up in literally just a couple minutes. And with some solutions out there, it may take 30 minutes because they're continually looking at that OS and layering into the OS and recording the OS and doing all this. Our application packaging is the fastest in the industry. FlexApp 1, another innovation that we have, self-contained apps that go anywhere that you want them to go, and they're deployable by any means necessary. And we've got a little bit more about that. They can also go offline. They can be deployed by Intune as well. So easily packaging apps with FlexApp, just a screenshot here. We do have full demos for you in here today. But when we're talking about the application packaging console, this is a look at it. You simply click that create button, and it'll allow you to fill out a form, a short form of a few fields, point to where the installer is, where you want to save the VHDX that will automatically create, and then it kicks off. And then it is a next, finish. Foxit Reader is in here as an example in here. And I can tell you that, I've packaged it up myself in less than 4 minutes. And most of these in the screen could be packaged up in at least that fast. That is the manual packaging. We have, this is the form when I click done. So you've got the package name. You can sign that yourself. You can even put a version number in there. So if you have multiple versions of a package that you want to only apply towards specific departments, you can do that. We've got the package description, where you want, where the installer location is, whether or not it's a VHDX or a VMDK. VHDX is preferred, as I said earlier, where you want to save these on network or cloud file share. And then you're off and going. Dynamically expanding volume is what you want to put these into. You could specify if you want it to be, but it's going to be dynamically expandable and the most efficient as it can be. So it's that easy. And then the packaging automation, like I said, no one in the industry has done this. This is go home on a Friday, come back on a Monday, and this architecture has packaged them up and they're ready to go. Here we've got 4 packaging machines out there, or actually 3. The other one illustrated here is a file share where the installers are, and you could have even more than 3, and they're packaging and resetting themselves all weekend long, or an example, right? All weekend long. And then they are putting them into the repository where you want them shared. When you come back, the Liquidware console has a list of all those, and they are available for you to test on that Monday morning, or you to put into a proof of concept. And it is unattended packaging. It works with silent switches as well, if you're familiar with packaging in SCCM. The difference is that these are going into a container that are highly dynamic, and it can handle any type of format. Even homegrown applications. Homegrown applications you may have to go back to the packaging console to do, but any type of application, executables, MSIXs, MSIs, etc. Ray, I've been talking for quite a bit, and I see a little chat window blinking there. Do we have any questions that may have come in?
Yeah, we do. I'm just going to kind of go through these. One person asked, does this go beyond MSIX app attach?
Good question. I touched upon it lightly on a previous slide. Here's the big compelling reason why you want to look at FlexApp compared to app attach. Do you want 30% of your applications to be compatible with what you're going to try to do, or do you want 100%? We can get to 100%. We've done that. Somewhere between 90 to 100% of your applications are going to be compatible with FlexApp. MSIX and MSIX app attach, not a bad thing, but you're going to find far more power in the power of FlexApp. And you can use us with MSIX. So that's the big difference there.
Okay. Somebody asked, can you package Microsoft Office and Adobe as basic apps?
We can, and we have. Microsoft Office and the changes and the updates that come sometimes alongside the OS, is one that we can package, but we would encourage you to think about putting it in the base image. It is a complicated one to package because of licensing and a couple other things. So you can do it, but the truth of the matter is that all your users, or the majority of your users, are probably going to need it. So we prefer it be in the base image. We can do any Adobe type application as well.
Okay. Someone asked, what happens with the apps attached if the machine goes offline?
That's a great question. So we have FlexApp, and then we have a FlexApp 1 format. Today, as in this week, FlexApp 1 containers can go offline, and we've been able to do that for the last couple of years. It's a local VHDX container that is on that machine, and the filter driver makes it ring true, just like it's running on the network. So we did that magic with FlexApp 1. I say today because within the next week, you'll see our traditional FlexApp model do that as well. There'll still be some advantages for certain use cases for FlexApp 1 because they can be deployed by any means necessary, whereas our FlexApp requires our Liquidware console and management console that's part of Profile Unity as well to assign applications and do them highly dynamic and keep an inventory of them and things that you probably in an enterprise need full access to anyway. But there's a difference in the packaging. But both formats, today FlexApp 1, literally next week is the plan for the GA of the new version of FlexApp, that those containers will be able to go offline too, because it'll cache them all to the endpoint. Today in traditional FlexApp, we've cached the majority of the applications to the endpoint, but within this new version 6.8.6, we'll be able to put those down to the endpoint. And I keep saying this week and that week and everything, and this is going to be a recorded webinar. We're talking about November the 9th of 2023. So just after that, all FlexApps can go offline.
Great. There's a lot of questions still coming in. I don't know if you want to take maybe just one more and then we can kind of loop back to these after time goes on.
Yeah. I love questions. Let's do 2 or 3 more.
Okay, so someone wrote, what about integrations of UEM and the profile container in the Citrix profile management?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I spoke about application data earlier. Now, if you're using our Profile Unity solution, we'll keep track of the profile and app data, right? If you're using Citrix Profile Manager, the new term for UPM, I think it's graduated now to Citrix Profile Manager, that will take app data and make it portable as well as the profile too. And that's fine. FlexApp focus on the app itself, not app data, the app itself, and making sure it's available. App data is what makes that app look customized for that end user. So no matter how you make it portable, FlexApp works with it.
It's very similar to what we do to back up any profile container. So if you want to use portability with Citrix Profile Management's container, same process, right? Portability will harvest the pieces of the profile out on logoff. And then on login, you will just use the container, and every time you log off, it'll pull it out. And then if you are experiencing a broken container, when you come in with a fresh container, portability re-injects all of the personalized settings back into the container.
Yeah, and it also adds cross-platform compatibilities, cross-OS compatibility. So one profile keeps both those things in sync, and it eliminates a migration for the end user because their profile goes with them no matter where they go. And Citrix Profile Manager has some cross-platform, but that's used in the migration phase. It's a one-way street.
Excellent. Well, like I said, questions are continuing to pour in. I think we've got about 8 or 9 more questions sitting here in the hopper, and I think we'll have time to get to all of them as we move on here. But I've got one more here that let's bring in, and I think it fits in with this next slide here. And what is the difference between FlexApp and FlexApp One?
It's a great one. So that'll be the last one we'll take for now, but I'll answer it and keep going then with this one. In here I say it's new, but we've actually had it for 2 years now, and we've made even further updates to it. Within this week, we're making even more updates to it to build in some incredible things. So monitor the news in the next week because we've got more innovations that you've never heard of in anyone in this industry. Well, a security format, making any type of application secure, and some things like that. But about FlexApp One, it's a self-contained package, and I could hand you Firefox as a FlexApp One, an example, on a USB stick, and you could stick it in your laptop and use it. And it's containerized, so then it's not going to tattoo the OS. I could also show you where it is in the file share. You could download it, and you could deploy it by Intune. Deploy by any means necessary, and that's the big difference. And can go offline. Because if you have those on the endpoint, you can go offline and use them on a laptop. So that's a FlexApp One package, and that's the ability to do that. It is also a VHDX container. The difference is we bundled in that little magic driver, that proprietary driver, that once it's launched, everything's embedded in one. You double click on it, and the application runs because the service kicks off. If it's already on that desktop, it'll be on that desktop, and it looks like it's native. That's a FlexApp One for it. It's highly dynamic, highly compatible. If you want to deploy those today in a Citrix environment, you can do it through Intune, and you can deploy them to a Citrix environment without needing our Liquidware console, any architecture. You can put those out. You do need the service embedded in your image. If you don't want the user to, and the user won't have permission as an administrator to say, yes, run the service, right? So you do need to put the service in there, and we have a help article on how to do that very, very easily. I've got a huge asterisk in this slide, and there's some NDA information I cannot talk about, but I want you to keep an eye on Liquidware in the next couple of months for some big news about how you can even easier deploy these things in a Citrix environment, and that's as far as I'll go on that. But it is going to be highly favorable if you're a Citrix environment and how you can deploy a FlexApp One. It gives you great business agility. So if you have to send users to work from home at a moment's notice, like we know that happened a few years ago, right? You can get the apps to people by any means necessary, and they can be working from anywhere very quickly. So it keeps you highly agile. The robustness of FlexApp and traditional FlexApp format. It's one product, I want to say. I want to tell you and remind you, it's one product. FlexApp 1 is a feature set of FlexApp. So you get the compatibility and the ability to run it that way, either way you want. But traditional FlexApp, you get far more contextual aware features. It's integrated with our UEM. You get inventory. You get a lot of the things that you'll need in an enterprise. You can do application restrictions, and you can also manage all your applications from one single pane of glass. This is how you would deploy a FlexApp 1 with Intune. You just go to Intune and you fill out and do an assignment group. Where is it stored? And do an assignment group. So you're picking who you want that assigned to, and then it'll deploy that way. Speaking of FlexApp 1, I'm going to do a demo of that first, and you'll say, well, how's this run in a Citrix environment? So then Johnny's going to show you in his Citrix environment how FlexApp runs in a full Citrix environment. So stay with me here. I think you'll be very impressed with FlexApp 1. I'm demonstrating this on a physical PC, and it's recorded because I can't talk and chew gum at the same time. But this is all real time. It's not shifted in any way. Here I have FlexApp 1 packages that follow me because I put them in my OneDrive. This shows you the power of FlexApp 1, for example. And what have I got in here? About 10 applications. I don't think I counted them. Let's launch one of them. None of them have tattooed the OS. Okay, is the service running? Do you want to run it? You can eliminate that screen if you embed it into the OS, or it's already running in the OS, right? I have admin privileges, so it's okay. And the container just launched, and it's Camtasia that I launched. You know, that this one has services and drivers, and because you're manipulating video with it, and I'm running it that quick. It was not there, now it is there. I literally turned the app on. It's running from a VHDX. It has not tattooed the OS. I can do some deluxe things here, like manipulate video with it. It's going to interact with all the drivers and sound drivers on my machine because the app thinks it's in the OS, because other apps and the OS thinks it's there. Highly compatible, and that's where you see that. Gosh, I can't believe that it can do something as complex as Camtasia, but it's easy to do when you're doing that. I've got a few other apps in here, and the full Adobe Creative Suite. When I just clicked on it, it just put the entire Creative Suite in here. Photoshop, Illustrator, all of that is now in the system, and it's going to show up in the locations where you actually packaged it. Now I'm going to run a script, which is double clicking on all of them basically. They're all in there. All those applications are in this machine right now as Flex apps, but have not tattooed the OS. Here you've got Creative Suite in here, and I'm going to launch Photoshop as quick as that. You'll see the performance is excellent. It is native, sometimes better than native, because we can steer IOPS on a network storage device, and you can run them faster sometimes than you can locally. InkView is another photo manipulation app here, and you see that they run just as if they are installed into that OS. If you want to try FlexApp 1, we've got a way that you can just go out there and grab some packages and even do that today. I've got a barcode that we'll share with you towards the end and a URL as well. And perhaps we can put that URL in the chat window too, Ray, in a little bit, of how you can try FlexApp 1. We've already packaged up some apps. There's about 8 apps out there we have on a URL. Just give us your email, please, and that's all. It's not a big form. But look, all these apps are out here in add remove programs too. So the OS thinks that they're there. That's how native that they look. They are not running in some isolated type of a way. And if you think about it, I said thousands of files usually go everywhere. If you look at the Adobe one alone here, we can, and also the Camtasia one, you'll see that there are files that look like they're all over the OS. Look at this, literally hundreds of files look like they're all over the OS, but they're not there. And I'm going to turn off the Adobe, I'm going to turn off FlexApp here in a moment, especially Adobe. Look carefully at that Adobe file as I turn off, stop this app. Look at the Adobe file. Boom, like a light switch, I turned it off. Thousands of files were never there. It's turned off. You didn't tattoo the OS. This OS is going to run as fresh as it did, I like to say, the day it was born. And so you don't have Windows rot. That's a quick example of FlexApp in a FlexApp 1 container. You get all the same benefits if you run a full-blown FlexApp. It's just, do you want an app to be deployed by any means necessary that's a FlexApp 1 container? Even I could just take all these offline that you saw. Or do you want, you know, even more control of these applications? And that's FlexApp. Johnny, I'm going to ask you if you want to go ahead and share out your screen and show these attendees how this looks in a Citrix environment and all the benefits in a true Citrix environment.
Yes, thank you. Screens here. All right. You can see my screen, correct?
Ray, can you verify?
Yep, I can see it.
All right, so in this scenario, we're going to kind of walk through, you know, traditional image management compared to how you manage applications through FlexApp and FlexApp 1. So as Jason talked about, you know, we talk about Notepad++ and how easy it is here, right? So in this particular case here, I'm going to launch an image, and I'm going to put this in windowed mode so that I can launch another image as well. I have two images that are traditional installed version copies of Notepad++. So I'm not running any Profile Unity, I'm not running any FlexApp applications on here. And, you know, let's see what the Notepad++ looks like. So if I go out to my start menu and I hit my virtual desktop already and I'm running my Notepad++, I come out to my Notepad++ and there is an update available, right? I'm running an older version. Same concept on the other one. If I pop over to it as well, I run my Notepad++ and I am out of date. So in the traditional application management and lifecycle, I would have to take my images and boot up a gold image or create a revision to my PVS vdisk and then, you know, crack them open and run this update and click yes because I want to play for keeps and I just want to continually cycle the application over and over and over. Let me go over here real quick. So it's in the same concept too. I have a image 3 that is running FlexApp and FlexApp 1. So we'll load that one up here. And then this one I am running a full Profile Unity client that is giving me FlexApp. It's giving me all of the UEM settings, including the universal profiles and all of those pieces in my world. You see our splash screen happen here. There's all my applications loading through. It does take a second for it to sort the shortcuts out. And then that's basically it, right? So in this case too, I have a Notepad++ on this machine. And if I check it, it's running a completely different version of Notepad++. So I want to show you how easy it is to basically roll out an 8.5.8 version of Notepad++, right? So I'm actually going to log off this machine. We're actually going to switch, and after we package the application, the assignment here, and we'll show you that we updated the Notepad++ over here. So I'm in no sense cracking open any images, but I do have what we call a FlexApp packaging console. Here's where we create application packages or update application packages. So in my case, my FlexApp packaging console is running on a Server 2022 operating system. This machine is off the domain, so you will see one additional step where I transfer this over to a network share and then import it into inventory so that my FlexApp or my Profile Unity console understands that I added an application so I can assign it. So going through the dialog box here, right? I want to package Notepad++. I'm going to put in the version, the 8.5.8 version, and you'll see the version tag in the inventory after we import it in there, and you know what version is what. So you don't have to put in a version up here, but I can type whatever I want up here as well if I truly wanted to. Everything by default is perfectly fine. You'll see I'm actually landing my package on the C drive of this machine. It's off the domain, so I'll need to transfer it back to my network share. I'm setting everything to expandable, so it is then provisioned, and you'll actually see this application is only a couple hundred meg. I'm going to check the box to create me a FlexApp 1 as well. Tells you how easy it is to go from no FlexApp at all to FlexApp and FlexApp 1 in the same packaging process here. So it'll actually produce me 4 files. One of them is the FlexApp 1 file. The other 3 are for the traditional FlexApp consumption. I'm at the create button here. And it is going to create me the VHDX that is going to be used for this Notepad++ app here. And then at this point in time, I'm ready to record. So I'm gonna hit the start button and it's going to prep that VHDX so that I can install applications into it. And then from there, as easy and as fast as installing the application as normal is how we package here. So I can elect to run the application or not. It's logistics and semantics if I truly wanted to, but let's just for giggles do it. And then once I'm satisfied with it, you know, we know I'm running the latest, greatest version of it, and there are no updates available here. I'm gonna hit the finish button to finalize that package capture. And then I'm gonna save the package out so that I can make the requisite changes I need to make where I copy it to my share for consumption of my Profile Unity client. I'm gonna save it out here. Now, if I pop over to my FlexApp folder, that's the local copy of it, you'll see that these 3 files here are the traditional FlexApp applications, and then this is the FlexApp 1. So very easy for us to have both file formats. And then in like an enterprise deployment, I can give this particular application to the folks that manage the endpoints using Microsoft Intune. And then they can very easily go out into the world and deploy the updated version of Notepad++. So I no longer need to duplicate and do all those types of things where this team is packaging it this way and this other team is packaging it this way, and you know, it's just duplication of effort that I'm eliminating here. So one package, one time install to kind of conquer, you know, my multiple use cases that I have in my world.
I think the audience that has seen other app layering would say that is fast packaging. I mean, that's as fast as anybody's probably ever seen. And I know that was Notepad++, but it's the same amount of time roughly it takes to install the app with Capture.
So you'll see out here I have an 8.5.7 version of Notepad++ that we saw in the demo earlier. Now I need to import the later greater version of it as well. So it's just pointing out to my share. And then I see the one with the timestamp of today. And then I'm going to import it. Once it's imported, I see that the change in the revision on that version I put in that tag there. And then now that I have an inventory asset of it, it's very easy for me to assign it to my configuration and flip over the application. So I'm going to come into the existing Notepad++ rule on this config, drag out the old copy, drag in the new copy, and hit save. And then I'm going to update to commit it to my config. And then I also have a use case as well where, you know, I'm interested in giving the user seamless applications. So I have a published application use case alongside my virtual desktop application use case. And then from there, it's very easy for me to do that same rule assignment change where I drag the old app out and I drag the new application in. And in this case, I want to do a click to layer apps anywhere on demand type of configuration on my multi-user published application scenario there. So I'm going to hit save here, and then I'm going to update to commit that config as well. So committing the config is all fair and fine. I do need to deploy the config and land the actual INI files out to my shares or my cloud locations so that when my client processes the login, it understands I made a change to the config. So there is one extra step in Citrix land to make it where it understands everything as a click to layer just in time and picking up the later greater package. And all I'm doing here is in my Citrix Studio console, coming out to the properties, and I'm pointing it at the actual new file that it is expecting things. So I'm going to be running the new package as opposed to the old package. So if I come out to this location here, and all I need to do is copy the XML file here and replace the previous XML file, and I'm good to go. So I'm just going to delete these pieces out here. And we are good. Make sure there's the extra space that it needs to be in there, and we're happy. All right, so I made Citrix aware of how that happens, and I've made my client aware when on login to pick up the new Notepad++ application. And let's just take a real quick peek here on how we do just-in-time click-to-layer delivery as a seamless publish application. Since the actual Notepad++ application is not on the operating system yet, I can't just point at, notepad++.exe as you normally would if it was traditionally installed, because it hasn't actually landed the package there yet. So what we're landing our own executable. It is our JIT-cut executable for click-to-layer. And then I'm just pointing the parameters over to the XML file that got generated for that on that FlexApp package capture. And it'll actually know to do a click-to-layer just-in-time delivery of it. So I'm going to actually log off all of these old sessions where we had the traditional FlexApp or traditional applications, non-FlexApp clients on here, just so that we have clean workspaces and there's no confusion of who did what to who. And then now that I made the change in my config and I deployed my config, if I was to launch this image 3 now with a FlexApp and FlexApp 1 application, we'll load up our Notepad++, because this is where it actually on login attached that layer for me, that VHDX for me. And then the service actually melded it into the file system for us so that it appears native. So wherever my mouse decides to pop up, there we go. So Notepad++, let's give it a load. Now, if I do this update again, I should be running the latest, greatest version, no update available. I have a handful of other applications that are FlexApp and FlexApp 1 delivered simultaneously. I can load up all of those, including our friend, the 7-zip that's only in the start menu only. The FlexApp 1 applications do show up in the tray. As Jason showed in that previous demo, I can stop those applications and they all go away. So same process here, right? I have a tree size application running. If I want to make it disappear, including the update I need to install to tree size, I can force stop the application and it goes away. And then the same thing with the putty if I truly wanted to as well. Everything else is the native traditional FlexApp. You'll see that in the file system, C program files, M remote, and 7Z, and all of those guys, they're all, appear native here. And if I wanted to make them all go away for more demo purposes than anything else, I can run services to kill it, but I actually have to run it as administrator because it requires administrator permissions. 2 seconds here. There we go. So let me run this as my administrator user. And then if I come out to our service and I stop the service, all of my applications in the background will disappear. And all of my file systems will, no longer exist with the Notepad++s and the 7-zips and the like out here, because I actually stopped that service.
Yeah. So the base image always runs as clean and fast as the day it was born.
Yep. This is on traditional virtual desktop computing. If we had the example where I updated the application on a published application. So let's just say I want to deliver my user published applications and not full desktops, just based on, I have a use case for it where they don't need all of the other stuff. They just need a line of business app or an EMR or all those types of things like that. This is where we're actually doing click to layer. And then Citrix's protocol is going to render the frame for us once the application layer landed on that machine. So M remote, same fashion. 7-zip, same fashion. This is loading onto an RDSH server running server 2019. And here are my various seamless applications that are published across here. If I log in as an administrator to that machine, I will actually see my user and task manager executing those applications as you normally would just as a published application, and you're good to go. So here's my Notepad++, and here's my 7-zip, and then here's my M remote that pops up in that world. All right, and then same concept, if I were to stop the service on the server, it would just make all the apps disappear and they all dismount. and as clean and pristine as we is before we even showed up here. That's all I have for this demo. Are there any other?
It occurred to me, Johnny, the closest companies is far behind us that can do this. It's not Citrix, but they have hidden cost, a lot of hidden cost. To run our full-blown FlexApp and FlexApp One, either one here, we have no hidden cost. There are no hidden requirements for SQL clusters. There are no hidden requirements for exclusive RDSH machines, and there's no hidden cost for load balancers to be in the mix. Now you may need load balancers for other things. We have nothing, NetScaler is a great load balancer, by the way. It's not a commercial for that. It's not a commercial against it. We don't have to have any of those requirements, nor the complexities. And those hidden costs that I just named off alone can run an enterprise a minimum of $100,000. And then you're talking about maintaining those as well. There's no man in the middle with FlexApp and even with Profile Unity for that version. Even our entire console is built to where it can go offline and everything continue to be running in there. And so there's no man in the middle saying, do this, do that, do that. It's a service and it's an instruction set on the file share that's doing all this magic. And so we built this to be very streamlined from the ground up and dependable. We've got enterprises running this with literally tens of thousands and approaching 100,000 users. And they run it with no dependencies in there. I have there was some questions about FlexApp versus FlexApp One. I do have a slide that I'd like to show on that. This slide in particular right here that I built for that use. And if the app needs to go offline and you need to deploy it by any means, that's the use case for FlexApp One. And as I said, that line becomes a little bit more blurred in the coming week or so when we enable FlexApp traditional to go offline as well by caching it down entirely to the endpoint. Then it becomes more of a matter, do you want to deploy it by any means necessary, including Intune, including Avanti DSM, or any way you want to push it out, a file share, a cloud share, your own store in the cloud or something like that you've arranged as HTML, download these files and these are your apps. That's FlexApp One. And that's the main difference. And I could go through these line by line, but that's the primary difference is if you want to deploy by any means necessary, it's FlexApp One. If you want more control and a lot of the things that you may need for an enterprise, look at that last section here. You need to leverage, your privilege elevation. You need to look at highly aware context settings beyond what you can do with assignments through AD. If you need to fully track the inventory of them, that's the use case to use the FlexApp format. These are not two separate products. You buy FlexApp or a licensed FlexApp, and you have access to both FlexApp and FlexApp One. I mentioned that you can evaluate FlexApp yourself very quickly, even on your laptop. We've got about 8 packages out there sitting on this webinar, sitting on a website, and I believe the URL there has been put in your screen in your Windows, so you can click on it from your Windows machine in all likelihood and be in there. The barcode, of course, will show up on your phone. So the easier thing to do is to put in that URL. We're not going to bug you. It's a quick, what's your email? And then bam, you can see the Flex apps on the next screen and you'll be able to test those. And those are, we've already packaged them up so you don't have to package. You can run, I think Slack's in there. So that's a popular one. I think Teams is in there. That's a popular one. You might want to run something that you don't have on your desktop already, like
Pinball.
Pinball. The Pinball that was originally built for other earlier versions of Windows, it's kind of disappeared, but it can run without FlexApp. If you have the installer, you could run it on any version of Windows. So no magic we're doing there except making it highly portable. Give Pinball a try there too. It's not going to tattoo your OS. When you open it up, you'll see the little thing, do you want to run this service? And you say yes, and it'll run the app just as quick as that. And there's a few more out there. I think we've got a browser and a couple others. Let's take some other questions, Ray.
And I'm on mute. So, all right, we've got a lot, so we'll try to go through these as quick as possible. Can you install apps to an E drive having Liquidware attached a virtual E drive as part of the package?
So you can package the application and then you can use Profile Unity to attach you an E drive and have it in that fashion. Hopefully that accomplishes what you need to accomplish. If you just package the application, have the application install normally, unless it installs onto an E drive itself.
Right. If they're FlexApp 1 packages, you basically can, and you're the end user, you can drag them and put them anywhere you want. If your administrators made them available by any means, like the example, the ones I said you can go out there and download right now. I'll leave that URL up. You can put them anywhere you want. Put them in your E drive, put them anywhere. They don't have to be on the root, if that's the question.
Okay, here's another one. How do we tackle applications that are very old? And in parentheses, they say manufacturing industries.
If they run on your Windows OS today, they should be able to be easily captured using the same process you saw today.
Yeah, we're not going to defy the logic of the application. If the application is expecting like an old version of .NET that doesn't exist on a modern operating system, we can't kind of trick it so that it understands it. So it has to run on an operating system that if it can run on those operating systems, you know, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 11, any of the various server operating systems, we have a Profile Unity client that can land on those and make the application happen.
I think we kind of touched on this earlier, but can we package Adobe Acrobat Pro with FlexApp package?
Yes.
Yes,
100%. Adobe Creative Cloud, Adobe Acrobat Pro, it's all good.
Is there a number limit to apps that are packaged and deployed per user or per package?
So you can build an application package with a very large amount of applications in it. It's just one package with multiple applications in there. We won't stop you. You can build the applications individually into their own packages. It's all good there too. The limit is the amount of VHDXs that can technically be mounted by Microsoft as the formal limit. It's in the couple of thousand range. Most folks don't usually go to that realm. They don't even necessarily go into the hundreds range per user, right? I may have an application suite and a catalog that has hundreds or thousands of applications in there, but it's very rare for a user needing to compute and use like 50 applications simultaneously on one desktop session.
For apps that patch and update or third-party patching tools, would that require a repackage or do patches apply?
So you would have to update the package and use whatever system to run the updater that you would elect to on that one. So you have to make it where it's read-write capable, and then you're just going to have it absorb the updates that are governed in that fashion.
Okay, I think this one, is there a limit on how many applications can be attached to a user? I think we kind of just covered that.
I do want to say while you're looking over the questions, Ray, if anybody attending would like a one-on-one session with us, just put it in the chat window right there. Say, yeah, contact me. I'd like to talk about FlexApp in my organization. And we'll reach back out to you and we'll make an appointment where an SC, either Johnny or one of our SCs, will show you and answer questions specific to your environment. We'll set up maybe an hour-long session that's just a one-on-one thing, and it's easy to do. And we'd be glad to talk to any of you.
Does FlexApp and FlexApp 1 work with apps that install the local app data?
Yes. So the application, even though it's installing app data, if the file directories and the files don't exist, we actually do a one-time copy. It's actually written as a feature a few releases ago where we do that one-time copy and land it in there. The shortcuts and those types of things might land in that user's profile that did the installer. So you may need to use another means to grant a shortcut to the user because those things didn't get recorded, but most definitely the application, if it got installed into like an app data directory, it would do that one-time copy over.
Okay. If cloud is not an option and you need to run everything on-prem, will all your components work without your SAS services, FlexApp, profile management, monitoring, etc.?
Yeah, the core solutions that are part of the Essentials bundle, right? That's Stratosphere, Profile, Unity, and FlexApp. Those are all on-prem capable. They're your cloud capable in whatever sense that you need it, right? So if it's on-prem, you deploy appliances in the hypervisor, and then Windows file servers for the Profile Unity servers, network file shares that need to host the profiles in the applications. Command Control is a 100% SaaS-based app. As long as your agent that you install on the endpoint can communicate to the internet and to our particular site and with your API key and those types of functions, those are perfectly fine there.
Okay. Do users need to log off for the application to get the updated version?
Yes, at a minimum on a single user operating system, you have to log off and log back in. On a traditional FlexApp use case in a multi-session environment, the server does have to reboot to pick up the new version. If you're using FlexApp 1, if you really wanted to, you could stop the application and delete the file and replace the file for the user, and they can just relaunch it as is. There's no log off, log on, reboot, any of those types of functions.
Somebody said, I suppose Citrix Cloud is also supported instead of the Citrix Studio on-prem in the demo you are giving.
Yes, yes, most definitely. Citrix Studio is the inevitability, right? If you're running a current version release of an on-prem version of Citrix, you do have Citrix Studio on-prem, the web-based console of it. But most definitely, whatever you need on there, that's just a pointer to a means of where are my executables when I publish them.
Sure. And someone asked, what happens if a user customizes an app, preferences, recent files, etc.? Will those customizations save in their profile, or how is that handled?
It has to 100% be saving into the user's profile. So if Bob in accounting logged in and he made the text kind of large or small or whatever it is, Profile Unity would manage it and govern it. And then next time they log in, Profile Unity will restore it and say, I remember Bob in accounting and he wanted his text to look like this.
Same with any registry settings that have been customized at the user level.
Okay, we're getting through there. Is there any latency for staging VHDX on third-party CDN?
It might need to provide more context. We'll talk to you offline if you want to hit us up there, and we need to understand the use case more in order to provide direction.
Okay. Let's see. What's the easiest way to upgrade a FlexApp that is currently in use via mounted VHDX?
You clone the package, make the updates, replace it in the assignment in the configuration, and if it's traditional FlexApp, they have to log off and log back in. And as they trickle through, those new users that log back in will pick up the new version and they won't use the old version anymore. And on a multi-session operating system, the server does have to reboot to pick up. The reason why it's different on a multi-session versus a single session is that we only mount the package one time to the operating system. If someone is using the application and we were trying to unmount and remount it while one person logged off, we kind of just pull the carpet from underneath those people that are currently using it, and it doesn't make sense.
Okay. What's the main difference with AppV?
So AppV, go ahead, Jason. Yep.
AppV can provide some isolation, and there may still be the need in your environment for some isolation if you have a use case to run the same app, two versions of the same app is some of the most often things that maybe AppV or even ThinApp could help with. There's less and less, as time's going on, there's less and less use cases for full isolation. Therefore, you may or may not need AppV, because MSIX can fill some of those gaps too, if your app is available in MSIX these days. So,
I was going to make the remark that AppV has one foot in the grave and is end of life.
yeah, I think it's been extended now to 2025, but MSIX is picking up some of that for the isolation. So.
I think we've got two more. One is a clarification that was going back to the customization saved to the profile. And they were asking, do you need profile unity for those changes to be saved? What if you're only using FlexApp?
If you're only using FlexApp, it lands on the local profile. And as long as the local profile understood what's there to be reloaded the next time, it's fine.
Yep.
All right, I see some comments. And then here is, does FlexApp integrate with Workspace ONE UEM?
Yeah,
Yes.
with the, well, UEM, we use UEM for user environment management, but they use it for user endpoint management. It's compatible, and you can actually deploy applications with Workspace ONE, FlexApp ONE applications with Workspace ONE, if that's the question.
Yeah, it's basically using Workspace ONE to be the replacement for Microsoft Intune, and you could just sub out FlexApp ONE applications through there. Otherwise, if you want to use Workspace ONE in general with traditional FlexApp, most definitely use our client on with any of their clients and agents that they have, and we just load through as applications for them.
Excellent. The rest of it is pretty much comments, people saying thanks for the demo, this was great. All of that. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to reach out to us at sales@liquidware.com. Check out those links that we put in the chat, and also keep an eye on your inbox. We'll send out an email following the event that'll have a link to the recording. I know there were a few people that said earlier asking about the recording and saying that there were some people that couldn't make it that they wanted to share this with. We'll be sending that out within the next day or two. We'll also make sure we include the link to the FlexApp ONE demo site out there, and some of those other links that we've included in there. So with that being said, thank you all for attending. Thank you, Jason and Johnny, for a wonderful demo today. And again, reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.